Alrighty, good day and welcome to tonight's edition of the Whitfield Report. I am your host, Sam Whitfield, broadcasting live here from NGC Studios here in South Florida, and I want to thank you so much for joining me here tonight. Quick impromptu stream, didn't really plan this. Just decided to pop in here and do a real quick stream. Nothing majorly important. Well, maybe not to you guys, but to me, we have some big breaking news for the podcast industry today, as it were. So I appreciate you guys popping in to watch this. Quick shout out to Owen Benjamin, Sucks Vox Off. That will never get old. And yes, for those of you listening on the audio podcast, that is an actual name. We have Linda Polverini in the chat. We have Ray Norshine, which I finally figured out. I finally figured out that Ray nor Shine is actually Rain or Shine. It took me a while to figure that out, but I'm, as Alex Jones likes to say, I'm kind of retarded. So it took me a while. It took me a while to figure that out, and I just figured that out today. And then we have Alan fucking Bell in the chat, who is probably the head of the Whitfield Report Death Squad at this point. Like if I had a secret police force, Alan Powell would be the head of it. At this point, I'm pretty sure. I've called him the greatest troll who ever lived, and it's true. It's extremely true. And we also have Shady J, who just popped into the chat. So welcome, Shady J. As always, you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at @SomeTWR_NGC. Hashtag Whitfield Report. You can also follow the Whitfield Report on Twitter at Whitfield Report. You can follow me on Gab and Minds at Sam Whitfield, and Parler too. Although Gab is down right now for maintenance. I was going to actually do a review of the new Gab redesign for you guys, but they are down today, so that will have to wait for later in the week. Facebook.com/Whitfield Report. As always, you can subscribe to the audio podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, which we'll be talking about later in the program, and wherever else you get your audio podcast from. And actually, you guys are going to want to subscribe to the audio podcast once I explain to you what's going on. Because tonight is actually going to be pretty much like me talking about podcasting and kind of the podcasting biz, as it were. So anyway, thanks for tuning in, and yeah, we will. Oh, and also hello to Sean in the chat, and yeah, Sean is on it. So anyway, folks, breaking news as of today, Joe Rogan, possibly the most influential podcaster out there, is leaving YouTube, and he has signed an exclusive deal to stream his podcast exclusively on Spotify, which I have very mixed emotions about, as both a podcaster who's been podcasting since I was 14, and as a podcast listener. And I will explain why during today's program, but first off, let's actually play this clip. So this was Joe's announcement today that he will be moving to Spotify exclusively. And let me switch over here. And is it in the proper window now? Yes, it is. So I will full screen this, and yeah, let's see what Rogan has to say for himself regarding this announcement. So, and pardon me for the video aspect ratio not being perfect. I'm still trying to figure out Streamlabs out. So, but hopefully this will work. So here is Rogan's announcement regarding moving to Spotify. Let's see what he has to say for himself.
Hello, everybody. I have an announcement. The podcast is moving to Spotify. I signed a multi-year licensing agreement with Spotify that will start on September 1st. Starting on September 1st, the entire JRE library will be available on Spotify as well as all the other platforms. Then somewhere around the end of the year, it will become exclusive to Spotify, including the video version of the podcast. It will be the exact same show. I am not going to be an employee of Spotify. We're going to be working with the same crew, doing the exact same show. The only difference will be it will now be available on the largest audio platform in the world. Nothing else will change. It will be free. It will be free to you. You just have to go to Spotify to get it. We're very excited to begin this new chapter of the JRE, and I hope you're there when we cross over. Thanks.
So that's Joe's announcement regarding, him going to Spotify. I pulled up a couple of different articles on this, but I decided just to go directly to the horse's mouth for this. Now, I actually have some very strong opinions on this, both positive and negative. And a lot of my opinions come from someone who does podcasting. So the Whitfield Report is not exclusively a YouTube show. It's also an audio podcast. In fact, my preferred method is actually audio podcasting, but since video is a whole thing now, that's why I live stream the show on YouTube, and that's why you guys get to see my beautiful face. And I actually like doing video production like this because it's easier than having to like pre-record and edit audio, and it's just a lot easier for me to do this rather than try and stream audio. But with that being said, YouTube, how can I put this nicely? YouTube has also been a major pain in my ass for the last several years. Because of the censorship and whatnot. Now, Shady J asks a very important question. Who owns Spotify? Well, um, that's a good question, Shady J. So Spotify is actually their own company at this point, I believe. Let me see here. .com. So they started out as a streaming music service, and as far as who owns them, let's see about. I believe they are their own company. I don't think anyone owns Spotify, and they're becoming the largest audio platform as a whole. Now, Spotify also owns the podcast platform Anchor, which Anchor is pretty important now because not to self-promote or shill, but Anchor hosts this podcast, actually, the Whitfield Report audio podcast. So technically, the Whitfield Report podcast is I own all the content, but Anchor / Spotify is technically the host of the Whitfield Report, and I will say this. They've been a pretty good platform to work with, Anchor has. I got my first set of sponsors for the podcast through Anchor, and Spotify. Yes, Spotify itself was actually a sponsor of the podcast at one point. I actually had them for about a year. And even through all the stuff with Owen and them and the Bears trying to get me deplatformed, I think a couple of them actually tried to email Spotify and get me canceled, and I actually received an email from both Spotify and iTunes saying someone was trying to basically get me kicked off the platform, but they actually were nah, there's no evidence that he's from saying any of the stuff that you're saying on his podcast. So Spotify has actually been pretty good about supporting the podcast. Now, I will say this, they stopped, I don't know if they stopped sponsoring strictly because of this. I think mostly my advertising contract just ran out at this point, but I did find it amusing because on the audio podcast version of the Whitfield Report, I actually do ad reads. So at one point, I did an ad read for Spotify, and at one point they wanted me to do an ad read for an ad read for Spotify and mention something about Taylor Swift's new album. Well, I'm not a big fan of Taylor Swift for a multitude of reasons. So I said something along the lines of in the ad read, it wasn't even that bad, but all I said was, you can listen to Taylor Swift's new album on Spotify, or you can choose to listen to something way better, I think I said Van Halen or something like that. And 2 days after, so I was notified that my ad campaign with Spotify had suddenly ended. So I kind of found that to be funny. It could have been coming to a close anyway. I don't know. I didn't get in trouble, but I just found it amusing. But anyway, So there's speculation in regards as to why Rogan is doing this. Um, One of the reasons is because they because he signed like a multi-year contract to stream exclusively with them, which I think that's interesting more than anything else. So obviously he's getting some type of sponsorship deal for this, maybe, perhaps. I think it's interesting, and as someone whose podcast is indirectly hosted by Spotify, I can't blame them. Look, I'm not monetized on YouTube, and while I don't make a ton of money off of the audio podcast, at least I'm getting some support. At least Spotify is kind of being like my ad agency, so to speak. For the audio podcast. So that's why I'm always pushing the audio podcast, is because even if you guys can't donate to the Streamlabs all the time, downloading the audio podcast and listening to them, it really does help me out, guys. So, anchor.fm/The Wakefield Report. The other reason, though, and this is what I find more interesting, is I know that people think that some people on this, in my audience, they don't like Rogan. They think Rogan is a shill. That's fine. I like Rogan because even if he doesn't go all in on the truth thing as much as some people would like him to, he does still have somewhat edgy guests on, what the mainstream considers edgy. Ben Shapiro, I know a lot of people are not going to want to hear this, but Ben Shapiro is actually considered pretty edgy on the mainstream. And there are always people who scream that Joe is like a right-winger whenever he has been on. Joe Rogan still catches flack for having on Alex Jones regularly, or semi-regularly, and he gets, flack for having Milo on one time. YouTube, Susan Wojcicki has actually said before that, that she wants to ban Ben Shapiro and whatnot. So that's why I do kind of find it laughable when people like Davey Crocco, and believe me, Davey, I love you, but when it comes to Ben, you're wrong, because there is no approved list of conservatives. Susan wants them all off. So, so there is that, and so YouTube is going to start kicking even off the big names pretty soon. And I predict that pretty soon I'll be off YouTube at some point. I don't know if I'm going to go to DLive. I'd like to go to DLive, but I have to test out some, things. But the one big advantage to audio podcasting is you can still find a lot of content out there on a lot of the audio podcast platforms like iTunes and like Spotify. I mean, heck, even Owen Benjamin is still on there. Now, I know Alex Jones has been deplatformed pretty much everywhere. And that was wrong, basically. I think so. Alex should not have been deplatformed. Even if you think he's crazy, even if you think he's nuts, he should not have been deplatformed. And I don't know who in Silicon Valley started that whole thing. but it was not a unilateral decision from what I understand. It was basically like first, first I think YouTube decided to kick him off and take Susan's lead. Then Zuckerberg did it. Then Apple took the lead, took him off with like iTunes. Then Spotify did the same. Which I'll talk about Tim Cook later, but I guarantee you that if Steve Jobs were still running Apple, well, heck, if Steve Jobs were still alive and running Apple, I'm pretty sure that Steve would be Me Too'd at some point. I mean, heck, they've even already tried to Me Too Steve. Steve was liberal, but he was not. I mean, Tim is definitely more of an elitist than Steve was. I mean, heck, even Andrew Torba, who develops Gab, like, says that design-wise, Steve was a big influence on him. I mean, Steve Jobs is a big influence tech-wise, as far as I'm concerned, but that's a whole nother, thing. Let's see. Ray says, I like LAJ, but I love David Knight. Yeah, I like him. Shady J goes, what happened to Swift? She dark side now? Yeah, I don't know what happened to Taylor Swift's Shady J, but I haven't liked her in a long time because I have an ex-girlfriend that looks exactly like Taylor Swift, and my ex-girlfriend is not a nice person, as I found out. So, I'll admit I may have some issues, but it could just be a me thing. But I can't. Yeah, Taylor Swift just reminds me too much of my ex. So, and plus her music is not all that good. I am sorry to say. I dislike country to begin with, but yeah, Taylor Swift just doesn't do it for me. So, even when I was dating this girl, I was always kind of like, nah. I don't really care for Taylor Swift, but let's see. But yeah, so getting back to Joe Rogan, though, I guess Susan Wojcicki wants to shitcan Rogan off of YouTube, which, and again, this is all speculation, but this is what I've heard. Why has YouTube been wanting to shitcan Joe? Because he has everyone on, and he doesn't and by everyone I mean he doesn't censor as much as YouTube would like. He's not necessarily safe anymore. Like I said, he will have everyone on from he'll have the far left on, but he'll also have people like Ben and Alex Jones and Gavin McInnes on. And there are people, I guess, who are upset that you had Elon Musk on when Elon Musk said that the COVID shutdown thing was a constitutional violation, which he's right, and whatnot. I meant to talk about that the other night with Apex Gamma, and Apex Gamma decided to be a Gamma and not show up, so, we haven't had that conversation yet, but, I guess that was a whole thing, and so, again, this is pure speculation as to why Joe is leaving, but I do think it has something to do with the fact that, Elon Elon said some shit about the quarantine lockdown being unconstitutional, and I guess Susan and company had a shit fit. So believe me, Joe is enough of a public. Joe is enough of an influence on YouTube to where if he moves off of YouTube, people will leave. They will. Let's see. Ray says, if Rogan feels targeted, we're all fucked. Say goodbye to your channels. But could it be a play against crushing YouTube's viewers and promote other platforms? Well, I mean, so here's the thing too. YouTube doesn't even have to ban platforms anymore to make them, YouTube doesn't even have to ban channels necessarily to make them, irrelevant. Like, my channel is stuck perpetually at 630 subs, pretty much. Ever since I started talking about COVID, even casually, my viewership has tanked tremendously, along with Semper, along with Davy Crocco, along with ROTC, along with Alan Powell. Although Alan is such a devious, he's such a prankster that like Alan has somehow outpranked YouTube's algorithm. I don't know how you do it, Alan, but you managed to do it. So, almost no one can see my channel. Yeah, I'm not sure about Elon. What did he name his kid? Some number or something? Yeah. X12, something or other. Like, I didn't say that Elon was normal. Elon Musk reminds me of Dr. Manhattan from The Watchmen. He's like super smart, but he's also kind of an android. It's weird. But yeah, I mean, so I'm pretty much, I'm pretty much done on YouTube. I think I'm stuck at 630 subscribers, and I don't care very much. You guys who tune in, you're great. I still love you guys. I mean, I do care. It would be nice to grow the platform, but I have come to learn that it's not worth screaming my brains out. So, like I said, I will just, post the videos here and, have you guys in the live streams, and then just promote the audio podcast directly. But I definitely do think that this will be interesting, considering that Joe is moving to Spotify. Now, I do have a couple complaints about Spotify, and those complaints are pretty much technical complaints. For one, the app interface is, as far as a podcast player goes, it's very basic. There aren't any bells and whistles. You can't really do customized playlists very easily on Spotify. My biggest pet peeve for Spotify, and it's something that I've actually tweeted about before and actually asked them about, but guys, you need to enable push notifications for podcasts so that I can get notified when new episodes of podcasts come out on your platform. And also you need to allow season and episodic tags. Because, I mean, if I can't get notifications, I'm not going to check daily to see if Rogan's, putting out new episodes every day. I'm just not going to do it. Plus, guys, I mean, I post episodes on the audio podcast, some days that don't always get posted to YouTube, so you guys don't want to be, checking manually on Spotify every day. I mean, I'm still going to be on iTunes and whatnot, but still, Spotify's notification system is horrible. By the way, shout out to Evil Eric, who has done the design of my podcast logo. This is his work here. You can see it on the screen. So, yeah, shout out to Evil Eric. He's a great guy. And, that's the album artwork for the YouTube channel and for the podcast cover art as well. But anyway, Shady J goes, you lay the law down at McDonald's. I mean, I guess, honestly, Alan Powell had the winning comment the other day on that excerpt video I did. He said, you should have said, lady, neither of us care our health, we're both at McDonald's. Which I find funny. I think you guys are missing the point, though, of that story. One of the points. I mean, I don't go to McDonald's all that regularly. I am not John Neary, where I will go there 3 times a week. I will go there maybe once every other week. But my favorite restaurant, the Cuban restaurant by my house, is still closed because of this COVID thing. That's where I wanted to go for lunch. All I wanted was a Cuban sandwich, and Fauci won't let me have one. Because small businesses here, they're opening back up, but the smaller family restaurants are having trouble here. So I was forced to go to McDonald's that one day. Well, not forced, but I mean, I could have stayed home, but yeah, I just don't like all the COVID Karens running around. That's mainly what that is. So Alan says I buy burritos all the time. So I picture Alan. I picture Alan going through drive-through all the time, just in circles. That's actually what you should have. That's actually what you should have done, Alan. You should have gone through like a drive-through and just gone through the drive-through in circles, and said that you were going to Owen's house. Perpetual right turns. Am I right? But anyway. Let's see. So, I don't know. Sean, are you still in the chat? You've been kind of quiet there. Did you just pop in or what? Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, though, I find this whole thing to be fascinating. I didn't mean to make this whole thing a self-promotional episode, but I certainly do find the fact that, Joe's moving exclusively to Spotify. I mean, I have mixed emotions about it because I think it's interesting that he's moving to an audio-only platform. I'm just not sure if Spotify is the one I would have chosen strictly because of the limitations to their app. Like I said, they need push notifications, ladies and gentlemen. On the other hand, though, next to iTunes or Apple Podcasts or whatever it's called now, Spotify is the second most downloaded, place where my podcast is downloaded. It even surpasses YouTube now, and that's partially because no one can see my when I'm live on YouTube anymore, or very few people can. Although I'm very happy that Shady J got the notification for my channel today. That makes me happy because I know that Shady J rarely gets notifications for my show / stream anymore. So the fact that she did get notified, or at least came on today, makes me happy. Bouldervon is here. I'm hearing numbers above $1 billion for the contract. I mean, yeah, like I said earlier in the stream, there is certainly a monetary component with Joe going to Spotify. There's certainly no denying that, but I think that Joe has also gotten major pushback from Susan Wojcicki, for having Elon Musk on the last time, when Elon said that the COVID thing was unconstitutional. And there are tapes of Susan Wojcicki out there saying that she wants Ben Shapiro banned, and then one of her colleagues at one of the feminist camps said, well, I want Joe Rogan banned for having Alex Jones on. So I think YouTube is going downhill through their own demise. And yes, folks, I realize it may seem a bit hypocritical that I'm saying this while I am on YouTube's platform, but they've already jacked my view count ever since I started talking about coronavirus. And look, all I said about coronavirus back in February was, look, guys, I think it's real, but there's no need to panic. I don't think this is as bad as everyone is making out to be. All of a sudden, folks, I'm getting, your video could be misinterpreted as fake news, and, here are guidelines that you want to abide by during quarantine. And, hey assholes at YouTube, you guys ought to be thanking me because I was actually helping you guys by saying that people shouldn't panic, during the COVID thing. I was actually, technically on your side saying not to, but no, any smaller content creator just talking about COVID, you guys have to mess with, don't you? So, if I get banned off the platform for this, I'll go to DLive. Yeah, it'll take me a while to figure out, but, I just don't care at this point. And if Rogan is getting $1 billion contract, for this, better Spotify than YouTube. Like I said, I've made money off of Spotify and Anchor. I've gotten sponsors from them for the audio podcast, so that's better than that's better than YouTube, which won't monetize anyone unless they have 1,000 subs and 4,000 watch hours, which is harder for people to get, and there are lots of smaller channels who need that money, probably. So like Ray says, way to use your way to patronize your platform users, huh? Yeah, well, I mean, people even normal, even relatively non-political and normal YouTubers out there are getting sick of it. There used to be a movie. Review channel. Well, I mean, I guess he's still on there. There is a movie review channel that is pretty popular out there, called the Nostalgia Critic. Doug Walker. He's pretty famous on YouTube, and he was a. I know that he was a partner with YouTube. I think he still is. But he did a video 2 or 3 years ago, so not that long ago, where he was complaining about YouTube repeatedly, I guess, demonetizes his videos and takes his money away because of the DMCA copyright thing. Because he's reviewing movies, and he's always getting copyright, reviews, and even though he's a verified partner, and even though people know that he reviews movies and uses clips with fair use, it doesn't matter. The algorithm still flags him anyway, and look, when you've got verified partners, with millions and millions of viewers, still getting their videos demonetized, that's when the platform is kind of screwed. I mean, heck, I'm surprised I made it to 630 subs. Now I know what's going to happen. Now that I've ranted about getting, about only having 630, YouTube will allow the channel to grow, so people think, oh, Sam, you're just crazy. YouTube's not censoring you. Your channel is still growing, and then they'll hit the brakes around 700, and then once I get stalled at 700 and complain, then they'll allow it, and then they'll stall me. Eventually, I'll get to 1,000, maybe in 3 years. But it's weird, folks. So, good on Rogan for going to Spotify. I wish, I wish YouTube weren't such a pain in the ass, and also I wish Spotify would, revamp their, podcast platform a little bit and at least let us get push notifications at the very least. Hopefully they'll revamp some of the stuff, but I don't know. And also on the subject of Joe Rogan, I know that not everyone likes him very much, and they think that he can be a shill for others. That he's too swayable and whatnot. And look, those are valid criticisms. And let me say this: I think there's a lot of things that Joe's ignorant on. I think, Joe has even admitted that he's kind of an ignoramus when it comes to a lot of stuff. But people ask me why I like Joe Rogan's podcast so much. And I don't even listen to his podcast every single day. But the reason why I like Joe's podcast so much is Joe is really the one who made freestyle style podcasts a thing. He made it okay, for people just to start a podcast and, talk to their friends and just kind of freeform and spitball, and he made that a viable format. And while I like Adam Carolla as well, Adam Carolla still it still operates his podcast as more of like a terrestrial radio guy. So, I just like the fact that Rogan is kind of a free-form guy. I always like the fact that he'll have people on, on the channel with diverse viewpoints, which is kind of, that kind of inspired me to have people on. I mean, look, people think that, that like, that having Alan Powell on might be a bit controversial, that having Johnny Arcade on, are controversial. But those guys, I love them, and same with Davey Crocco. I'm not necessarily in the truth. I mean, I guess I am to a certain extent, but like people people kept telling me, oh, you shouldn't have so many people in the truth community, and I'm like, it's fine. I like talking to people, even if they don't agree with me. I mean, I went from being fairly establishment conservative, to voting for Trump, to, now just, being a random guy on the internet and just talking to a whole bunch of people. Johnny says, "I love you too, Sam Fag." Well, I'm only a fag for you, Johnny Arcade. I'm only gay for you. So, oh boy, that's gonna become a meme here. I just know it. So, although the DZ memes me all the time, so I don't care. But anyway, I don't know when I'm gonna have Milker Nation on. That interview. Let me say this. Milker Nation will be a TBA, thing, but that interview will be happening still. Mark my words. So yeah, let's see. So Sweet Sammy, the sweet talker. Why yes, I actually am somewhat of a sweet talker. So, but I'm glad someone finally noticed. Speaking of sweet talking, people also keep saying that I don't have enough female guests on the podcast, but I am working on that. I'm going to be more diverse and have more lady guests on the podcast soon. So just just be patient, guys, and stay tuned. Other than that, folks, I am just rambling. I don't have anything else to cover for you guys today. I just wanted to, kind of chat about the Rogan news and whatnot, kind of spitball, things. I'll be reviewing Jack Carr's books on the audio podcast. That will be an audio exclusive, so I'll publish that tomorrow for you guys. I'll be doing a book review tomorrow. Those don't really work well on the video podcast, so I'll post that to the audio feed. So again, subscribe on Spotify or wherever else you get your podcasts. I don't know if the Versa Media guys will be on tonight. I know that they usually are. I know that Semper was on last night. So I have no idea. Also, in case, one last thing, folks, before I go. I would like to, first of all, welcome Damon Mark to the channel as a subscriber. Also, I would like to point out to Mr. Mark, my last name is Whitfield, Mr. Mark. Whitfield. There is no E in Whit. It's not Whitefield. It's Whitfield. Like I have a sharp wit about me. But I know you're from Minnesota, so everyone from Minnesota, for whatever reason, just pronounces my last name as Whitefield. I have no idea why, but they just do. But I wanted to clarify that. So, I already get enough shit from my, from the Never Trump, people in my family who think I'm alt-right because I voted for Trump, but, you can't do, what can you do? Let's see. Anyway, folks, I think that'll be it. Alan, I will send you more timestamps and clips for my intro video, and I will send you the the music I use for the podcasting, because I actually do have theme music that I use, so I will send you the audio file of that, Alan. Let's see. Anyway, from all of us here at NGC1, have a good night, God bless, and God save this great nation, and I will see you on the next live stream, which will probably be on Thursday. So, thanks, guys. Hey there, folks. If you've made it this far to the end of the podcast, I'd like to thank you very much for listening to the show. You are the ones that make it possible for me to make an income from podcasting, and I greatly appreciate that just by listening to our show. You are helping us gain ad revenue. However, if you would really like to help support the show, I encourage you to please donate to the podcast and become a supporter of the show. You can head over to anchor.fm/Whitfield Report and click the support this podcast button and choose the amount that suits you to support the show. Or you can click the link in the show notes and it will directly take you to that page. If you can support the podcast, I really, really appreciate that. Anything that you can do to help out is greatly appreciated. Even if you can't afford to help financially support the podcast, I encourage you to please go on iTunes or Apple Podcasts or Stitcher, and please leave this podcast a positive 5-star review. That really helps us out here at the Whitfield Report. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you next episode.